This isn't comfort food, it's a war report carved in iron. The Mandalika massacre, Pecco, Ducati, and the cursed weekend that exposed everything. 30 seconds off the win. 2 seconds elapsed slower than a rookie on an older bike. A crash that didn't roar, it whispered. That was Mandalika for Francesco Bagnaia, Ducati's golden boy, their polished double champion. 1 week earlier in Motegi, Bagnaia was a storm. Pole, sprint, main, all taken with the arrogance of a man who'd wrestled back destiny. Reporters whispered that Ducati had secretly slipped him 2024 parts, the same GP24 DNA that Franco Morbidelli and VR46 were leaking about. It didn't matter. The scoreboard read domination. But Indonesia isn't Japan. Mandalika is heat, dust, and demons in the asphalt. Bagnaia's weekend unfolded like a curse, dead last in the sprint, trailing like a rookie who'd forgotten the throttle. On Sunday, lap 8, the GP25 simply snapped him off. No fight, no glory. Just a crash buried under silence. Ducati shrugged. Pecco muttered apologies. The numbers screamed betrayal. And so the question coils through the paddock like poison gas. Was this just a bad weekend, or did Mandalika expose the factory empire for what it really is? A kingdom of sand built on lies. The ghost of Motegi. Motegi was Bagnaia's resurrection. Pole position, sprint domination, main race perfection. He was unstoppable, smooth, clinical. Ducati's PR machine sang hymns of rebirth. Their double champion was back. But the whispers cut sharper than the press releases. In the garages, VR46 mechanics dropped hints that Bagnaia had been testing Franco Morbidelli's GP24 setup at Misano. Why would the reigning champion on the weapon GP25 need to borrow from a satellite's bike? That question hung in the air like smoke nobody wanted to breathe. The GP24 was turning into the forbidden fruit. Riders on it, Alex Marquez, Aldeguer, even Morbidelli himself, were showing pace Ducati's factory duo couldn't always match. It was an unspoken truth. Sometimes the older blade cuts deeper. And Bagnaia's Motegi dominance? Too good. Too sudden. A performance that felt like it came with asterisks. Was it really talent reawakened, or had the factory quietly played with parts to shut the critics up? Ducati denied. Pecco smiled. But silence in this game speaks louder than statements. The Ducati empire split by 2025. Ducati's empire looked untouchable on paper. 8 bikes in 2023 had shrunk to 6 in 2025, but all carried red blood. Factory team, VR46, Gresini. They held numbers, power, and political chokehold. But inside, the fractures bled. VR46 whispered betrayal, hinting that Ducati was feeding Bagnaia GP24 setups to rescue his confidence. Gresini turned from wildcard outsider to nightmare factory shadow, their riders humiliating Bologna's finest with year-old machinery. Factory Ducati looked too heavy, too political, too corporate. Marquez and Bagnaia were meant to be the red fist crushing everyone else, but the GP25 wasn't always playing nice. The empire wasn't a monolith, it was a gang with knives at its own throat. The shadow of Marquez. While Pecco bled silently in Mandalika, the other half of Ducati's red spear, Marc Marquez, hit the tarmac on lap 1. Marco Bezzecchi clipped him, breaking his collarbone, ripping Ducati's nightmare wider. The irony dripped like oil. Marquez had carried Honda through unholy machines for years, a man who could make a coffin ride like a chariot. Now, on Ducati's state-funded rocket, he was ripped out before the battle even began. Was it bad luck, or was the universe laughing at Ducati's arrogance? Marquez's injury stole headlines, but Bagnaia's collapse told the deeper story. Because Marc fell in combat. Pecco just disappeared. Sprint, the humiliation. Saturday's sprint wasn't a race, it was a public execution. Bagnaia circulated like a ghost, 30 seconds adrift, lapped pace that made even rookies pity him. No grip, no rhythm, no fight. He finished dead last. The factory Ducati, designed as MotoGP's nuclear warhead, reduced to a paper airplane. Every onboard camera that cut to him felt like an autopsy. Sunday, the coffin nails. Race day came with promises. We checked the data. We'll fight. Empty bravado. The lights went out, the pack exploded, and Bagnaia immediately sank like stone in water. 2 seconds elapsed slower than Aldeguer's GP24. Let that number cut you. 2.0 seconds. That's not a gap, it's a canyon. By lap 8, Bagnaia lost the front. No blaze of glory, no clash, just gone. He later apologized. I was slower by 1.5s, but I wanted to close the gap to second last. That line wasn't contrition, it was confession. A world champion admitting he was chasing the back markers. Meanwhile, Aldeguer on the Gresini GP24 turned the race into an execution. Smooth, brutal, uncatchable. The satellite humiliated the factory. The rookie shamed the king. The Marquez incident, lap 1 chaos. Bezzecchi clipped Marquez, breaking the 9-time champion's collarbone. Was it just racing chaos, or was there more? Ducati had the team's championship wrapped, but the riders' war was still alive. Did Bezzecchi just miscalculate, or was someone quietly relieved that the factory's alpha predator was sidelined? Questions spiral. Ducati gains nothing from Bagnaia's humiliation, but Marquez's injury shifts the pressure. Who benefits? Who laughs? Bagnaia, 30s behind in sprint, DNF in main. Pace, 2.0 slower than Aldeguer. Ducati factory, both riders destroyed in one weekend. Gresini, Aldeguer delivers the knockout on a year-old bike. Numbers don't lie, but Ducati's press machine does. Pecco's psychology. A week earlier, he was untouchable. At Mandalika, he was unrecognizable. This isn't mechanics alone, this is mental collapse. The desperation to chase second-last place? That's a champion cracking under invisible weight. Maybe the whispers about GP24 weren't whispers, they were anchors. If Bagnaia's Motegi win came with borrowed machinery, then Mandalika stripped him naked. The truth of his GP25 pace was exposed, and it was ugly. The silence of Ducati after the race, Pecco dodged media duties. Ducati fed the line, consequence of the crash. But the silence rang louder than any denial. Why wasn't the factory explaining the setup? Why was the GP25 slower than last year's bike? Why was a reigning champion apologizing for trying to catch second last? Corporate silence isn't absence, it's strategy. When factories go mute, it's because the truth is too toxic to release. Mark as collateral. Mark's collarbone wasn't just bone, it was symbolism. Ducati's dream pairing of Pecco and Mark was supposed to be unstoppable. Instead, both were erased in Mandalika. One by accident, one by collapse. Marquez's absence hides Bagnaia's shame, but only temporarily. When Mark returns, the comparisons will burn Pecco alive. The deeper betrayal. Mandalika wasn't just a bad weekend. It was a mirror. It showed the GP25 for what it was. Inconsistent, political, haunted. It showed Bagnaia for what he was, fragile when stripped of Ducati's hidden lifelines. GP25, weapon or self-killer. The GP25 was built as the ultimate weapon, but the numbers show something darker. In Mandalika, it was slower than the GP24. Not by margins, but by seconds. Riders on older bikes were thriving. The factory was drowning. That's not progress, that's regression. So the question, did Ducati build a machine too political, too corporate, too compromised to win? Is the GP25 a rocket or a ticking bomb? Team orders in silence. Bagnaia's collapse raises suspicion. Was Ducati hiding data? Was there a quiet shift of focus toward Marquez before his injury? Did Pecco's Motegi win come not from his brilliance, but from Ducati's desperation to shut critics up? The silence suggests yes, because when truth benefits you, you shout it. When truth damns you, you whisper or vanish. Racing purity versus orchestration. Aldeguer's victory should read as a fairy tale. A rookie on a year-old bike, humiliating the giants. But in this blood-soaked sport, purity doesn't exist. Gresini's triumph doubles as Ducati's shame. Was Aldeguer free to win, or was his success a dagger meant to remind the factory that their empire is crumbling from within? The haunting doubts. Was Bagnaia's Motegi victory real, or manufactured with GP24 DNA? Is the GP25 a failed project disguised as progress? Did Ducati silence Pecco to protect their brand image? Was Bezzecchi's clash with Marquez pure chaos, or did someone quietly benefit from Mark's injury? MotoGP sells speed, but behind it lives politics, betrayal, and manipulation. Mandalika was not just a race, it was a massacre that ripped Ducati's mask clean off. And the bitter truth? No answers are coming. Only more doubts, more whispers, more scars.